And they're coming in now.
And you'll let me know once everyone's in?
I'll let you know when it levels off.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, it's starting to level off now at about 130.
Okay. Hello? Are we, Leo, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm sorry. I had a teenager next door who kept FaceTiming me and caused me to lose my call. So do we have everyone in and I can begin?
Yeah, we're at about 140 or so attendees, so we're pretty good.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Williams, the Assistant Superintendent of the Norristown Area School District, and I would like to welcome you to our Norristown Area School District Parent Information Night regarding our virtual learning plan. Before I start, we would like to share with our Spanish-speaking families that we have a special session set up for our Spanish-speaking families on August 25th at 6:30. Ms. Fernandez, could you please share that with our Spanish-speaking families?
Querida familia de Norristown, si hablan solo español, no se queden en esta presentación porque vamos a tener una presentación especial para ustedes el agosto 25 a las 6:30 de la tarde. So, espero verlos en agosto 25 a las 6:30 de la tarde. Gracias.
Thank you, Ms. Fernandez. So this evening, we have a few goals. One, we'd like to provide an overview of our NASD virtual plan, discuss attendance expectations, explain a day in the life of a student via our virtual platform, and address your questions. So before I begin, I would like to introduce my panel. So we have Ms. Fernandez, the principal of Gottwalls Elementary School, Mrs. Kirksey, the principal of Whitehall Elementary School, and Mr. Jason Smith, the principal of Paul V. Fly Elementary School. So to begin, I would just like to go through very quickly because I know everyone received our NASD virtual plan. So Leo, and I'm sorry, we do have Leo with us today from our IT department. And you know they've been very busy, so we do appreciate him being here this evening. Just to overview, so this plan was developed in collaboration with our principals, assistant principals, teachers, supervisors, special ed supervisors. We had nurses, we had community members involved for certain aspects, just so that we can have a stronger and robust learning experience for our students this year. I know at the end of last year, we had to pack up quickly and, set off into the wild, to deal with this unfortunate time in our history. But we have really reflected on the things that we've done in the spring, and we believe that we have a much stronger plan for our families. So the plan is built around our standards and our vision. So delivery of instruction for our plan will be based on synchronous and asynchronous learning. At the elementary level, we will use Google Classroom along with GoGuardian, and the principals are going to discuss the activities that are associated with synchronous learning, which would be our live lessons, and then asynchronous learning, excuse me, which is typically, sometimes it'll be independent practice. We may have small group instruction, and they will go through all the different types of asynchronous activities for the students. Leo, if you could advance for me, please. So in our bulletin, we do have sample schedules. We have sample schedules for the high school, middle school, and Leo, if you can advance. So our focus this evening will be on the elementary school. And the principals are going to walk you through very carefully and detailed about the day of a student via the virtual platform. But if I can just draw your attention to attendance. So things are going to look a little differently than the spring. We do have new PDE guidelines. We will take attendance during every live lesson to ensure that our students are logged on and engaged. Excuse me. Also, grading, we're going back to our traditional form of grading. So the principals, whether it's during open house or the teachers will share, but they'll share that information out with you as well. Included, we will definitely touch on our SEL, social emotional learning. So that's going to be embedded in the curriculum and some activities during homeroom or the beginning of the day or class meetings. Also, mental health, we do have a class link with resources. We have resources on our website as well to make sure that we are considering every need of our students. Another component, and the principals will share this with you as well. Leo, if you would like to advance the slide for me, please. We will have resources. So a distribution date will be disclosed of when you can come by the school and pick up your consumables, your foundations kits for students, and different instructional materials that the kids will need during virtual learning. And also, I know many of you have already picked up your Chromebooks, but that distribution dates are also listed in the document as well. And also this time around, part of our committee work included thinking of resources for parents as well. So that will be shared with you as well. At the bottom, just some simple tips for at-home learning, creating a space and a schedule. So the kids will have a schedule that they need to follow each day, but it's really great for them to, have a routine, and it's going to help them try to get back to some sense of normalcy. Leo, if you can advance for me, please. Also, we do have some quick links in there for you. Our special education night will be next week, and you can ask questions regarding your child's IEPs. So Ms. Molitor will lead that session. We will have information soon about lunch because that will continue. Also, we have a link for community partnership. We do have community partners who are opening up their doors to support our students during this time, and all of that information can be found within that link. And our IT help desk is going to be available with Spanish-speaking staff members as well. In registration, if you still need to register your child, please click on a link within the bulletin. Thank you. So Leo, if you can project the next presentation. So parents, at this time, we're going to take you through the day in the life of an elementary student. So Mr. Smith, Mrs. Kirksey, and Mrs. Fernandez will walk you through what that will look like for your child. Afterwards, we will address your questions.
All right, well, first of all, I want to say good evening, welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight. It's a privilege to meet with all of you and to share with you just a glimpse in what a day in the life of an elementary student will look like. I know a number of parents that are on tonight had the opportunity to speak with over the course of the past couple weeks. So we're just going to jump in, and we're going to start off with sharing the overview of the schedule to kind of give you a deeper dive into what to plan for at home, because I know many of you that I've spoken to, what is it going to look like? What are the expectations? Will I be doing and my schedule? We're going to take a look at that. As Dr. Williams had already mentioned, we're going to be using Google Classroom. For those that have been with us in the spring, many of our first and fourth graders, you're familiar with Google Classroom, and you know, maybe have some sort of familiarity with that. For our kindergarten families, this is going to be new for you, and we'll certainly provide resources and training on how to access Google Classroom. So at 9 o'clock is the first block here, 9 o'clock to 9:20. And in talking to our parents, they asked, well, what is that going to look like? How will my child get on? So students are going to log into their computer, their Chromebook. That all Chromebooks will be provided by our IT department. And as soon as they open up the Chromebook, they're going to log in into Google Classroom, and they'll log into their Chromebook, and their child, if it's before 9 o'clock, they'll have the opportunity to go on and go into Google Classroom, see an assignment or updates that the teacher may be put into Google Classroom. But at 9 o'clock, your child's going to be taken over. It's going to be taken over by the teacher. And what that'll look like is they won't have to do anything. There's no logging in. It'll just be live with your child's homeroom teacher. And then they'll start the school day. So really for parents, there's nothing you need to do besides logging into the Chromebook that'll take over your child's computer. So you don't need to help them get into anything beyond that. And so at 9 o'clock, we'll have a morning meeting. We'll talk about the morning meeting just here in a little bit. From 9 o'clock to 9:20, and really for all of our students, the morning is going to be used to get to know and create the community. So we know there's a lot of concerns. Parents are wondering, what is it going to look like? Will my child be able to see their friends? Yes, your child will be able to see their friends if they're in another classroom, or if they were in the classroom last year, they might see some of their friends in the classroom this year. So they'll have the opportunity just to make those connections. Learn the expectations, etc. Then starting at 9:20, from 9:20 to 10 o'clock, again, it could look like for a kindergarten to second grade student foundations. Now this, again, the sample schedule won't necessarily mirror your child's classroom in the building that they're in, so I just want to let you know that this is a sample schedule for the district. But from 9:20 to 10 o'clock, they could have foundations or ELA, depending on the schedule. From 10:05 to 10:45 would be the ELA writing block. Then if you see their 10:50 to 11:30 related arts, so they'll have their, or what we call special area classes, and those will all be live. So everything I've talked about from 9 o'clock, 9:20, 10:05, 10:50 will all be live, and that leads us right up to lunch. So lunch will be 11:35 to 12:05, and at that point, they'll not be a live session. Your child will be able to sit down, have lunch on their own. They'll have access to their Chromebook, so they won't be interacting with the teacher at that point. Then at 12:10, it'll be a live session again. All they have to do is open up the Chromebook. At 12:10, the teacher will take over the Chromebook and start teaching, and that'll take us to 12:50, 12:55 to 1:35, Science and Social Studies. And that'll really be the last core content that'll be live with all of the students. And I'll talk about what the afternoon will look like. So again, what is it like from 9 o'clock to essentially 1:35? That's going to be a live session with the teacher where they'll be teaching. So they could have, for our ELA block, they could introduce the writing, they can introduce the reading, the story, and then have students take over and put an assignment into Google Classroom. And this might sound a little bit complex for all of you, and it'll be really a hands-on. That first week of school, we're going to provide you working with the teacher, working with the student, your child, to really understand what that'll look like. Then in the afternoon, from 1:40 to 3:20, there's going to be small group instruction. So that might be live sessions. So your teacher will reach out to you and let you know if your child's going to be working with them in a small group, like they would if they were in the reading block, and they could be working on reading, they could be working on math. It could look like in the afternoon following up with a one-on-one session where they'll have the opportunity to really just connect with the teacher in a small group setting. So That's really what the afternoon is going to look like. And again, some of that will be live and some of that will not be live. So that's a quick snapshot of what a kindergarten to second grade schedule would look like.
So I just want to emphasize that there is a big difference from next year. So your kids are going to be able to have the live contact with the teachers. If they have questions, if they have a problem about logging in the computer, they actually are going to be able, the teachers, like Mr. Smith said at the beginning, are going to be able to walk your child through all of those problems, and everything is going to be live. So if you see the K to second grade schedule is very similar. It might change a little bit school by school, depending on the, where the related arts are, but pretty much the main content areas are taught during the period from 9:20 to 1:35. And then the afternoon is for where each of your children can be enriched or get a specific support or have a counselor meeting or any other type of activity. So like Mr. Smith said, your child teachers are going to inform you of the specific schedule of each of your child.
So I just want to jump back. Thank you, Mrs. Fernandez. Just to follow up, so you might look at these blocks of time and think, how is my child going to sit through a 40-minute block in front of the computer? So it will not be just a sitting, watching the teacher teach. Especially for the first couple of weeks, our goal is to build up the students' stamina, so they're learning how to engage the computer. Again, this is all new to them. It's going to be all new for your teachers. So that's our goal, is to really build up their stamina. We're going to work on building relationships, whether that's through great games that we play, through the direct instruction from the teacher. We're going to be establishing routines with our child. There's going to be lots of brain breaks built in, especially, we have a number of kindergarten families on here tonight. They're wondering, how's my child going to make it through a long session? There'll be brain breaks built in, dance breaks. And so it's going to be broken up, these schedules, as the students' stamina builds up and they're able to adjust and understand how to navigate Google Classroom, how to navigate this new learning style. We'll dive deeper and deeper, but we're going to look at our students because we want to meet their needs. We don't want to exhaust them as this is all new to them and online live sessions. So if you hear students moving around or you see them dancing around while you're in a room or walking by, the teachers know what they're doing and they'll have control, so they're just getting them up moving because we want to keep them engaged in learning, and it can't be just straight listening to somebody. They got to be up and doing something. So I just want to kind of give you that other standpoint as well, so you're not, how's my child going to make it through all these long blocks? Again, the first couple of weeks of school are really going to be used to build up that stamina and create those connections, and it'll be adjusted. And as we go on, we're all going to be learning this together, and adjustments might need to be made, and different routines put into place and frequent breaks. But that's kind of a quick overview of that sample K-2 schedule.
Mr. Smith, I also want to point out that we want to make sure that kids aren't learning in isolation. Not only are we just building relationships with individual students, we're also creating community within each and every classroom among the students themselves, and of course with their teacher as well. So those dance parties, or those brain breaks or those dance breaks, those times that they're doing like these little activities or learning activities, but they're little activities to allow the kids to get to know each other, get to know the teacher, and just have a little bit of fun here and there, especially that first week of school, in order to build that community within the classroom so that the kids are learning together, because that really starts to begin to allow them to learn together, ask questions of each other, to start working in groups together, to start doing just the activities together. So when they start reading stories, they will begin to
depend on each other to start getting to the root cause of certain conflicts that occur in the stories that they're going to be reading. So there's a method to the madness that the teachers start to begin to do in that first week. So again, just like Mr. Smith and Mrs. Fernandez said, please trust them and know that, that they know what they're doing. There's a process.
Yeah. And if I could add, it also supports our social and emotional learning piece. That connectivity that the kids will have is very important as well. That socialization is very important for children. Thank you.
Okay. Leah, we can move on to the next slide, please.
So the 3rd and 4th grade schedule is kind of the same, some differences, but we're taking what has occurred in the K1 and 2 schedule and moving into the 3rd and 4th. So the only difference is with the 4th grade schedule, there's what's called departmentalization that occurs, and that is with students, rather than them going to 4 teachers in a school day, they're going to go to 2 teachers in a school day. And this is our way of getting the 4th grade students ready for middle school. So for our 4th grade students out there, our families, students who are going to middle school, we are getting your children ready for middle school. So their schedule looks like this. So as Principal Smith just said, from 9:20 to 10 o'clock, they will begin their first period. So they have their 9 o'clock time to 9:20, they have their homeroom, and then at 9:20, they're staying in their homeroom from 9:20 to 10 o'clock and starting their synchronous learning. Now, group A, they will start off with either science or social studies, depending on what their rotation is, or they could be in reading or their ELA block. So, in thinking about this, so they could be in science or social studies or reading, depending on which group that they're in. So you can have a A group and a B group. They're going to be in science or social studies or reading. Now, at 10:05 to 10:45, they're going to stay with their A group, but now they're going to move into math or writing. Then they're going to move from 10:50 to 11:30. They're going to now, that A group is now going to switch, and they're going to go from their, let me get this right, that A group is now going to, if they had science and social studies in the morning, now they're going to have reading in the afternoon. And if they had math in the morning, they're going to have, oh, I'm sorry, I messed that up. I'm so sorry. Let's start all over again. So from 9:20 to 10 o'clock, they're going to have science and social studies, but then in the afternoon, they're going to have reading. If they had reading in the morning, they're going to have science and social studies in the afternoon. If they had math in the morning, they're going to have reading in the afternoon. And if they had, oh, I'm so sorry. I just messed that up, Dr. Williams.
Can you?
Okay.
Yeah, let me get this correct. Because
Are you able to see it? Can you see the schedule? Do you want to just go through Group A, what their day will look like, and then Group B?
Yes, let me make sure I got this right. So Group A will have science and social studies or reading in the morning, depending on the teacher that they have. Now that I can see it. And then they'll go right into math or writing, depending on which teacher that they have. And then Group B will have science or social studies, depending on their cycle, or reading, depending on what teacher that they have. And that's in the morning. That's their synchronous learning in the morning. And then they're going to go into lunch. And then in the afternoon, depending on which teacher that they have, they're going to have math or writing, depending on what they had in the morning. And then they're going to go into a special. So my apologies. I need to have my reading glasses on. So
That's good.
yeah, I'm sorry, I need to have my reading glasses on. So
So
what
to re-
happens in the departmentalization, I'll just tell you how it is. So what happens in the departmentalization for our students, they'll either have reading and writing in the morning, or math, science, and social studies. And then in the afternoon, they'll have those opposite classes. So they have two teachers. One teacher teaches reading and writing. The other teacher teaches math, science, and social studies. And then they just swap. They'll have, you know, the two subjects in the morning, the other two subjects in the afternoon. And then they swap, you know, morning and afternoon. And again, this is our way of getting them ready for middle school. And this is how we prepare them for that. So during the synchronous block, they're doing, you know, the teachers are teaching live lessons, of course, and we're trying to simulate as much as possible what they would be doing in the regular classroom. So they'll have full group instruction, they'll have small group instruction, even in the synchronous learning block. They'll have direct instruction, they'll have some guided practice, and even though it's in synchronous, they'll still have some independent practice that occurs. So if you walk into a room and the kids are silent and they're working on something, but the teachers are still monitoring them, that is okay. That is okay, because the teachers may not be directly instructing them all the time. There are some things that kids have to be able to do independently without the teachers in order for them to be able to, in order for the teachers to see what they can do on their own. The guided practice piece, there are times that teachers are going to do a little bit on their own, but then release it to the students to see what they can do before the teachers take it back and say, okay, let's see. We call it checking for understanding. Let's see what you've done so far to see how much help I still need to give you. Then we have times where we may have two teachers in the classroom. You may see that. So as you're, you know, stopping in your child's bedroom, if you're stopping, you know, past the dining room table and you want to kind of see what's going on at the time, you may see two teachers in that class, and we call that co-teaching. It may be a learning support teacher, it could be an English language teacher, and that is those individual teachers who are pushing in to either provide services. You may see them walk by your child, but your child may not necessarily receive services. That is okay, because we have those individual teachers going in to support all students, because we don't want them just going in to support those students who have IEPs or those students who are being programmed in an English language program, because we think all resources should be available for all kids as needed. So we have, again, the co-teaching models. And then in the afternoon, after students come back from lunch or their related arts, so what we also call specials, so you may hear specials, you may hear related arts. In the afternoon, we talked about there could be synchronous learning and that it could be asynchronous learning. So we have what's called win period, what students need. It could be that small group learning. It could be students who are continuing to do the independent work. It could be them finishing up the work that was done this morning. And it also could be teachers, while they're finishing up the work from this morning, it could be teachers pulling small groups. It could be teachers who are administering assessments during that time. It could be accelerated work that's taking place because we want to push students who can handle that extra work. It could be students who are able to move on to the next concept, but it could also be that group of students who maybe they didn't get that lesson that the teacher taught, or there may be some gaps in their learning during that lesson that the teacher picked up when she was checking for understanding. And that's the time that she may see small groups. She may see more than one small group during that period. So some of the other asynchronous work that may occur during that time, we talked about small group learning. There may be online learning activities that could be occurring. There could be some online stories that the students are listening to. And there may be activities where they are required to cite evidence in a story. Through Google Docs, Google documents that they have to report out on. And then during that asynchronous time as well, again, you could have related services if your child requires occupational therapy, if your child requires physical therapy, maybe speech services, it would occur during that afternoon time. And if they needed one-on-one English language support and maybe more specific goals in their IEP that need to be worked on, it would occur during that time as well. So that would be some of the asynchronous activities that could occur during that time and synchronous activities that could occur during that afternoon block. And again, my apologies. I should have had my reading glasses on, but if you have any additional questions, I can answer them related to the third and definitely the fourth grade departmentalization schedule. And all of our elementary schools do departmentalize in the fourth grade, because again, we want to prepare our students for the middle school programming.
May I just add, during the asynchronous time, the wellness checks that may take place with our counselors and nurses, so that's going to take place at that time as well. And
Yeah.
your counseling sessions.
Yes.
Thank you.
My readers.
The good news for everyone, you won't have to memorize this. You'll receive a copy from your child's teacher. So we're going to keep moving on and hopefully talk to you about what will the synchronous learning blocks look like. So we're going to dive into some of the curriculum. Leo, can you turn to the next slide, please? All right, so as I already mentioned, we're going to be working, obviously, the first week, developing that. This is new for our students, especially our kindergartners. Maybe this is the first time they've ever used a Chromebook. And so we're going to need to develop that and work with our students to really create, how does it look? What does it look like? How do I get on? Because it's a long time and we want to develop that. So we're going to get fun. As I already mentioned, it's going to be fun. There's going to be play associated with that, movement break, but also introducing the curriculum. So it's not just going to be all fun and games. There's going to be introduction to the curriculum, but it's going to be done in a creative way as we develop that stamina. And it's not just for kindergarten students, it's K to 4. Because as Ms. Fernandez already said, it's going to be very different from what we did in the spring. They're not going to be watching recorded lessons. These are all going to be live lessons. And so the teacher will be there, seeing what your child is doing and encouraging them as well along the way. All right. Leo, can you turn to the next slide, please? So I had mentioned the morning meeting. Again, what that is going to be, there's going to be a greeting that's taking place where students are learning more about each other, again, as best as we can from the virtual standpoint. Obviously, face-to-face we know is best, but we're going to do our best to make those connections so that when we do come back to school, they do feel that connection with each other. They're going to get to know each other, they're going to get to know the students, they're going to share. So they're going to be sharing some things about their lives, about maybe what they did this summer. So really making those connections. And then participating in an activity where they're going to be working on teamwork and developing those social and academic skills. Okay, especially with our kindergarten, first grade students, over the course of the last 6 months, they really haven't had the opportunity maybe to interact with their peers. And so this is going to be a perfect opportunity for us to capitalize on that and really make those connections. And there's going to be a morning message that will describe what is going on in the building that day. So there could be a special events. Special events will take place over the course of the school year, even from the virtual standpoint. So that'll be an opportunity to really share with the students what's going on in the building and what they need to know with regards to special events. Leo, can you do the next slide, please? All right, as I mentioned about we talked about the ELA block. With our kindergarten and first grade, they're going to participate in Wonders, and they're also going to participate in Foundations. And that's the curriculum that our families, our students use, our teachers use in our kindergarten and second grade. And with regards to Wonders, they'll be learning reading comprehension with a variety of genres, vocabulary, grammar. There's going to be writing. In Foundations, they're going to be developing and working on their phonemic awareness, phonics, word study, high frequency word study, handwriting and spelling, and just exactly what would take place in school, except with the challenge of doing it at a distance. And so there's some resources we'll talk about that parents will have that we'll be sending home to help as we're teaching these concepts here, that students will not have to go on just a computer, but they'll actually have paper and resources and materials in front of them to help reinforce that. Leo, next slide.
Yeah, so in 3rd and 4th grade, they are also working with the Wonder series. They'll be working through reading comprehension with a variety of genres as well, vocabulary, and definitely lots of grammar. Writing is an important part of the Wonders program. Definitely a part of the ELA block. Students learn how to find evidence in the text, and this is so crucial. It says to create arguments, but they're like debates. And we teach students to cite evidence in the text to back up their debates. They can't just talk about what they believe. It has to be what we call collaborative conversations by citing evidence. So they have to say, like, on page 25 in the second paragraph, in the second sentence, the author states, and that's how they back up the proof that's the evidence or the proof that's in the text, and this is why the answer is correct. And we teach the students how to do that with sentence starters to help guide the conversation that they're having with each other, with their peer group at the table. So these healthy debates are wonderful, and the Wonders program supports these conversations. So the students will again receive resources that will go home with them on our materials distribution day that would support them in these comprehension strategies through the Wonders program. So you can look forward to that.
Leo, the next slide, please. As you mentioned, students participating in science and the social studies block. So they'll rotate. They'll start off with their science. That'll be the first month and a half of school, and then it'll rotate to the social studies. In science, they're going to be looking and learning with life science. Kindergarten to 2nd grade will be working with life science, and 3rd and 4th grade, they're going to be working in physical science. Mm-hmm. And then again in social studies, when that takes place October 22nd, when they start the 2nd block, social studies, they'll be learning about communities. All right, yeah. Leah, the next slide, please.
The math is very similar of what we do during the regular school year. In grades K to 2, as you see, the children start learning or how to develop number sense. They start actually figuring out how to solve problems, word problems. And there is a lot of learning of the math vocabulary. So it's very similar what we do, in the schools, in a regular base, in the regular day, but it's gonna be virtual. But we're gonna provide the tools that the kids are gonna need in the classroom, at their home, in order for them to be able to follow the teacher's instruction. And they're going to be able to develop the math concept in the lower grades. In the upper grade, they also were going to have my math material for the 3rd. Leo, can you move to the next slide? For the 3rd and 4th, where the students are going to be able to practice the fact fluency. They're going to, everything in 3rd and 4th grade, it has to do with how to solve real world problems. I mean, in the lower grades, we look more to the, understanding the numbers, how numbers work, how they relate to each other. Now in 3rd and 4th grade, it's a little bit more about solving real world problems. Mm-hmm. Again, math vocabulary is extremely important. And also the students will have what they need at home to be able to follow the teacher's instruction.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Leah, if you move to the next slide. So I just want to follow up on, before I jump into this slide, I want to follow up regarding resources. As Ms. Fernandez had mentioned, as I mentioned, the resources for the curriculum that will support learning at home will be sent home. So you'll be receiving notification from each elementary school that your child will attend about when you will pick up the materials that will support the curriculum. So There'll be packets that will be sent home, packets being workbooks that will be sent home that will correspond with the instruction that's taking place in your child's classroom. The other thing I want to point out is that there is a parent supply list or parent recommended supply list that will help encourage or have all the materials that you need to help support your child at home. And so those are all on each elementary school has the link to the supply list. So we encourage you to visit that and select the supplies that will help for each grade. We broke it down by grade, knowing what type of curriculum they're going to be utilizing. So again, these are suggested, recommended supplies. You can visit any of our school websites and see the supply list.
Yes.
All right. So again, as I had mentioned, we want to focus in on the academics, but we also encourage play. We need to make sure that students are moving, especially in the elementary school. Students learn through play and games, and unfortunately, we're not going to be in person to do that. So you'll see some unique things being done. Our teachers are very creative, and we've had lots of conversations with our teachers on what it's going to look like. It's going to look very different, even than what it would look like if they were in the classroom. Our teachers are amazing, and they're going to do some fun and crazy things, maybe, because you're going to hear your child as you're walking by or monitoring, like, what are you doing? And you're going to see everyone up and moving. And so that's how they learn. And so we are going to encourage your child to play and explore through this virtual learning platform. Can you do that, please? So we want to invite you like I said, we have a number of kindergarten families joining us, and a lot of what we talked about might be overwhelming. Might be like, what is all this? I need to know more. We will have our virtual kindergarten orientation where you'll have the opportunity to hear from your child's teacher exactly what it's going to look like, go over the schedule specifically that reflects what your child will experience, not the sample schedule that we presented to you tonight. And then August 26th from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, and you'll be meeting with your child's teacher.
So
Leah, can you do the next slide? I'm sorry, Ms. Percy, did you?
Yeah, I was just going to say teachers will be sending out links because I know often parents are wondering how are they going to get that information. So kindergarten teachers will be sending out links via Talking Points, Class Dojo, and via email, depending on which one they use. So you'll be receiving links for kindergarten orientation throughout each building. So then we also have the virtual open house that's coming up on Wednesday, September 9th from 5 o'clock until 8 o'clock p.m. With your child's teacher. And again, we'll send out the links via those 3 different modes in order to have an open house. And here we'll talk more about the curriculum during open house. You'll have some more time with the teacher in order to ask more specific questions about programming, school-wide, K-4, and grades 1 to 4 in those buildings who do not have kindergarten.
So it's very important to have your outdated information in the schools, like your phone number, email. I mean, in the technology world, I mean, that's essential to have those. That way we can communicate with you. Please feel free to contact the school office, to contact us via email. I mean, we're here for all of you guys. So I think if there is nothing else, we're open for questions.
And before we do that, Leo, if you can assist us with the questions, because I'm unable to see the hands. And I would like to thank the principals for all of their hard work and for partnering with me during this journey to develop a strong academic plan for our students. You have principals who care about our students. They have worked tirelessly, to make things happen for kids. So thank you, Mr. Smith, Mrs. Kirksey, Ms. Fernandez, for all of your hard work. And I know you will continue to work hard for our beautiful children. Parents, I too am a parent, and I'm trying to figure out a way to get my 15-year-old excited about virtual learning. So today, after I finish signing her up for virtual learning, which will include synchronous and asynchronous learning, I said, well, what if we just kind of decorate your space and get excited about, going shopping for school supplies? Because now is the time that we are actually preparing our students for jobs that don't even exist. So I'm just thinking about the kids, even the young kids, who are going to be innovative and come up with ideas about what our future will look like because of the world that we're living in today. So there is definitely an upside, you know, to some of the things that we're experiencing as well. So Leo, do you have, can you see the hands?
Yes, I can. So the hands are in order at which they were brought up. I have
Okay.
Christine Leonard first. So
Miss
I'm going
Leonard?
to allow her, yep, I'm going to allow her to speak right now. Give me one moment. Okay, she's been allowed to speak. She has to unmute herself, and then she can talk.
Sorry, guys, that was just in the beginning of the meeting when we were doing a check-in.
Good morning.
Very good.
Good afternoon. Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
End of the day. Very good. Okay, so if you have not, then we'll move on to the next one then. Our next one is Lisa Hogan. Let's see, allow to talk. Okay, Lisa, you can unmute. There you go.
Everyone.
Hi.
Good evening, Ms.
All right.
Hogan.
Just a general question. The plan looks, ideally, it looks like a good plan. However, what is your kind of backup contingency plan for, you know, parents that are not only working in the home, but out of the home? I do know that you guys mentioned, you know, basically the children will be able to kind of log in on themselves and eventually, you know, sit there and attend to themselves. But is that a reality for all children? And if it's not, how do you guys plan on addressing something like that?
So I'm just going to be honest. We do need our parents to partner with us. We've tried to stagger the live lessons too. So if there is an older child in the home, you know, maybe at the high school or middle school level, that their live lessons are not at the same time. The Go Guardian will also help because I believe it sends an alert, and Leo could, you know, help us out because this is new for us as well. And it will shut down everything else on the computer so the kids are actively engaged. And we will take attendance every live lesson. And 9:30 each morning, we're going to send parents notification if your child has not logged on. So that way, if you are at work, just like, for instance, like I will be in the same situation that I'm believing that my 15-year-old will be up. I'm going to get her out before I leave, but it's going to be nice to have some type of notification to know what do I need to call her and remind her, you know, to log on. But at this moment, we have to stay virtual based on the guidelines from the state and just the overall safety of our staff and students. So those are things that we have in place. We do have our wellness checks that we spoke about and people that are able to check in and make sure that the kids are okay, as well as our core team time, which we did implement last year as well.
So I guess to just follow that up, let's just say you're a single parent and right now you are an essential worker or your job requires you to physically be at a location and your kid may now be in a daycare setting. How does that work if the daycare isn't willing to be logging in and out for students to do this live learning?
If you get permission, I mean, we will definitely work with the daycare. If you get permission for us to speak to the daycare, we can help them log on and assist the child if that is the obstacle, because the child should have their own Chromebook, and then we have hotspots if that's needed as well to make sure that the child is engaged while they're at daycare.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Stay well.
Also,
You too.
Dr. if you don't mind me mentioning, I know we are kind of foreseeing that there are going to be some students who need alternative schedules. For example, students who may not have someone to log them in and out. So depending on what grade their students are in, we're thinking that kindergarten students and first grade students may have to be logged in a lot longer or possibly, you know, most of the day. So teachers, especially kindergarten and first grade teachers, are prepared to have kids logged in, and they will, you know, mute them and, you know, close their screen, knowing, you know, to give kids breaks during their lunchtime, during their time that they're going to have that independent practice or asynchronous learning. so that parents don't have to log them off, so that daycares don't have to log them off, knowing that they may not be able to get back on. So for Lisa, who was just on, Lisa, if you can talk to your child's teacher, they could do that for your child while being at the daycare, so the daycare doesn't have to do it, and your child could stay on all day, or most of the afternoon until the asynchronous time. So someone doesn't have to do that for them. The teacher could do that for your child. They can, again, mute your child, close the screen during the times that are needed, so someone else doesn't have to do it on the other end.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, the next in line, Betsy Stone Plummer.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Appreciate all the time you've put in tonight. I just have a question to find out more about the professional development that teachers have received in order to do this delivery of services this year.
Yeah, so one of the first things we did was we partner with the MCIU, and every teacher is required to take an intro to online teaching class. And also we have a PD calendar, and teachers have actually started. Teachers don't officially start until August 24th, but our teachers have been logging on and taking advantage of the resources that we have. So we do have a pretty robust online library right now. We're also purchasing a resource for them. They have been, teachers have been supporting other teachers as well. Principals have been supporting them. We have been able to do more research. We were looking at our online programs. Teachers have a nice online resource library that they can use throughout to really kind of keep kids engaged. There has been a lot more planning because we've had the time. So even before it was announced that we were going strictly virtual, we started planning for, as you know, in-person, hybrid, and virtual. So a lot of the work was already done, but we still spent hours upon hours extending the virtual platform and making sure that our teachers are ready. And like I said, they have jumped on board and they have started to participate in that training already.
And next week, the teachers are gonna have is 4 days of full professional development, but something that you didn't see in the schedule that we show you was the early in the morning from 8:20 to 9 o'clock. The teachers will have the opportunity to meet each other. We call it PLC meetings, where a lot of the professional development and conversation will be happening during that period of time.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fernandez. Yes, the principals have embedded that in their schedule, so it will be ongoing.
And I just want to jump in. I know volunteer meetings, because as Dr. Williams said, they're not required to be back yet. I think we've had almost more meetings in the last 2 weeks than we've had in the first 2 weeks. So teachers are jumping in. They want to know, they're aggressively looking at what they can do to support their students during the first, especially the first 2 weeks of school as students get acclimated to this new platform, and to support our parents as well.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful. And before I go, I just wanted to make the quick suggestion that we do Connect Ed announcements for the second 2 presentations this week. A couple of parents and I thought that that would have been beneficial for more people to hear about these, because you've obviously put a lot of preparation in, and that would help more people to sign on to hear you. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Let's see. Okay, moving on to the next. I see. Oh, okay. Janisha, Major.
Hi, I was interested. I needed to know, my daughter, she's in special education. When is that meeting? I heard it, but then I didn't hear the time.
It is the 26th.
Okay. And then we would get the schedules then. Do you think that it's going to be as hands-on? Because it's hard for a child to stay on the computer like that when they're in special education.
They will definitely speak to those things, accommodations, and how they're going to support the children. Just like with regular ed, they have been doing a lot of work on the back end to make sure that they're prepared for this year as well.
Okay, so you said the 26th.
Yes,
Great.
I'm going to double check the time because it's either 6 or 6:30. It was originally 6:30, but I think someone saw that it was 6. So if I can get your name again, I'm sorry.
I have it.
Okay,
She's one of
perfect.
she's one of my moms. I'll have Mrs.
Awesome.
Miss G
Thank
reach
you.
out to you. Okay.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Mhm.
Dr. Williams, just so you know, I spoke with Miss Malter at 6 o'clock on the 26th.
Thank you. Okay, perfect.
Yes. But Janisha, I'll let Miss G know that about your concern.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Tell Jada I said hi.
I will.
All right, the next one in line, we have Verna Ayers.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. I actually had a couple of questions. It sounds like we have to use the Chromebooks. We can't use personal computers that we already have.
I can speak to that. The Chromebooks are offered technology for your house if you need one. If you wish to use a Windows PC or a Mac, or I guess Linux, the option exists for you to download Google Chrome and sign in with the student's Google account issued by us.
Okay.
And they can still participate just the same. iPads and tablets, unfortunately, will not be able to participate the same.
That's
If
fine.
you have,
Perfect.
if you have a home PC, you are A-OK. So yeah, Google Chrome, and then you sign in with the students. You can make a profile in Chrome with the students' information, like login. They'll get all the same extensions, all the same curriculum pieces they would get if they were logging into the Chromebook.
And the teachers can still take over and do the
Yep.
synchronous. Okay, perfect.
They can. Yep.
My second question, I have 5 children, 2 of which are in kindergarten, 1 in first and 1 in second. With all of their classes being synchronous at the same time, how much one-on-one interaction with each child are we expected as parents to do, and how do I manage those simultaneous classes?
Are they all at the same school? I'm
Yes.
assuming.
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me the name of the school?
Paul V. Fly.
Okay. All right. So I will chat with Mr. Smith, and I'm just throwing this out here. Is it possible to put them in the same class so we don't have to compete with pacing? So that if
I mean, the 2 kindergartners we could probably move to the same class, but then
Right.
I have a first grader and a second grader.
Yes, I was referring to your kindergarten. So the first grader and your second grader.
Currently, they're in 2 separate classes.
Right. Okay, so if we could put the kindergartners together and then the first and second, how closely aligned are their schedules, Mr. Smith, as far as subject matter?
I will. And I can call tomorrow, and I can set up a time about it, and I'd be happy to help work through some of your concerns.
Okay.
Let me pull that up.
And that way, even if the subjects are aligned as far as, you know, everyone's working on math at the same time.
Mhm.
So however you can help.
Yeah, I have them set up so that I can hover between the 5 kids, but with them doing the random dance classes and stuff, I'm trying to figure out how I get at least the 3 little ones to stay focused while other kids are dancing in the same room.
We understand. So Mr. Smith, you'll follow up with mom?
Yep, I'll give you a call tomorrow.
Perfect,
Okay.
thank you.
Alrighty.
You're welcome.
Good question.
Yeah, and one piece that we decided as an elementary team is that just so parents will know that we're not going to have the the teachers assign homework. We think that it's going to be a lot for the school day. So the assignments that are going to be assigned during the day, students are going to have time to do them. It's not going to be, you know, if they don't get it done by the end of the day, or if they don't get it done by, you know, that end of that period, they're going to be penalized. It's not going to be that way. They're going to have time to complete assignments, because we know it's going to be difficult for parents. We know it's going to be difficult for students. So we want to provide as much, I don't want to say as much time as possible, but, you know, a good amount of time for assignments to be done. We're respecting that there are, you know, multiple students in the household. We know that there are only limited devices in a household. And the goal is for kids to have access to those devices, time to get assignments done, and for learning to occur. It's not about, you know, how fast you can get an assignment done. And it's about quality of an assignment. So please know there won't be more work assigned, and that, you know, the goal is for us to provide an opportunity for students to get that learning taken care of. So you will have time, students will have time to get assignments done. So more information about that as far as the time limit.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the next on the list, Joanna Moore.
Sorry about that. Hello.
Hello.
I just wanted to check. My son is going into 3rd grade. We kept the Chromebook from last year. So is there additional material besides the Chromebook for 3rd grade that needs to be picked up, or will that be distributed to our home, or how is that going to work?
Yes, there will be a distribution date for the curriculum resources that the principals were referring to, and they'll give you a date to pick those up from the school.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you. Yeah, thank
You're
you.
welcome. You're welcome.
Okay, so next up on the list, Patricia Kita.
Hi, my question is, toward the end of the school day, it seems like what Jason has said, that people will be breaking out into small little groups, and that we will be getting an email of, you know, when our kid will be in there. How is that going to work, especially for somebody that is an essential employee and will not be there? So would they be getting it, the parent, these emails that, hey, their kid needs to go to these classes or attend these sessions? So can you elaborate on that?
So, I mean, our goal is to have schedules, so it's not like, oh, today you're getting an email, your child needs to come in there. So our goal is to have teachers create schedules so your child knows when they're being pulled. There could be times, though, that it occurs, there's a one-on-one need, you know, your child's struggling with certain things, and they, you know, a one-on-one time, so you will be notified to make sure that works. And if it doesn't work, you understand that the flexibility based off of the, you know, you need to know in advance when your child be pulled in that one time. So we're going to work with the parents. It's certainly not going to be like, well, your son's being done to you, judge in advance to help sort your child and make a schedule or just something that comes out to you.
Okay, thank you.
That answers your question.
I believe so. You were breaking up there. So yeah, I believe so. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, so the next one that we have on the list is Dan Naylor.
Can you hear me now? I believe I'm unmuted.
Yep, we can hear you.
Perfect.
Yes.
So I recognize and respect the need for the social distancing, which is why we went the virtual. But just like a lot of other families, we have a son going into kindergarten. I do have questions and doubts about his ability to sit in front of a computer, or even stepping away and doing secondary engagement, but still having to be centralized in front of the computer. And I'm guessing, like a lot of other families, we're looking at pod type environments, somewhat organic pod type environments, and we're looking at to at least control some the exposure, but get our son in the midst of other kids for the learning experience. And obviously, the best course of action is to get him in a controlled environment among other students from his class, so they're following the same curriculum. Now, I'm not asking you guys to set these up, but I'm wondering what the level of willingness is on your parts to share contact information among the parents, so that we can at least contact other parents of kindergartners over at Marshall Street and see if any of them are interested, and at least setting these up so that in a controlled environment, our son is getting together with a couple other kids following the same curriculum, but at least they're engaged in a social environment together.
Sir, that's a good question. Would you allow us to explore that and then get back to you?
I'd love it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Okay.
Yeah, we're looking at other paths, but obviously our first option is to keep it centralized within Norristown School District, and specifically in his class, if at all possible. So anything that you guys can do to help facilitate that, that'd be appreciated.
Okay, we will explore that.
Okay.
That was Marshall Street, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. Moving on, we have Duperly Hadrick.
Hi, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, awesome. So I have two things. One, I think Ms. Naylor mentioned it earlier, and I think you guys have mentioned it throughout, but just an emphasis on making sure that our elementary school kiddos are having, I guess, hands-on materials to perform, especially science and math, especially, developmentally. That's kind of like how they're learning still. So making sure that they're receiving some kind of materials going with the curriculum that we can support them at home with, that are hands-on. And the second concern is more through the counseling part. Is it going to be SEL, like social emotional learning focused, especially because I think a lot of kids are displaying anxiety, even possibly depression at such a young age because of all the restrictions that's going on with this pandemic. So will SEL, will that kind of be the focus of the counseling groups? And how will the counselors, will they just check on every child individually, or will it be and how would they organize that?
So they will check on all of the children, and then typically they do set up counseling sessions, and they'll typically group kids according to needs. And we also have other staff members that will help us with this as well.
Okay.
So it's really, we have to gather the data. So they will check in on the kids, and once you gather the data to determine the needs, and then you can start forming in groups.
Okay, got it. Because I agree with Mr. Dan, who just spoke before. I also have a son, he's an only child, and he has a need of just interaction with other kiddos, and I don't know if it's something that can be controlled. I know other districts are exploring possibly once a month in an outside setting, weather permitting, so kids can kind of see the faces of each other, definitely in a controlled setting. But just exploring that option, because I think it's going to be needed, especially for their emotional needs.
And we'll continue to post things on our website as far as community outreach and resources as well.
Okay.
So we do have a team working on those as well.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
If I can jump in real quick. Hi, Departmentalization, how are you?
Good, and yourself, Dr. Hersey?
Doing well, hi. So last year, and I'm sure they're going to, well, I know for a fact they're going to do it this year as well. Our guidance counselors will be running classroom lessons within the virtual environment. They're already coming up with topics that they're going to be doing. They also ran small groups last year. They're going to be doing the same this year. There are particular kids that they have to see that they're going to be following up with this school year. Also pulling small groups out, they did dance parties last year. They had groups of kids that they saw with particular themes. They also did groups based on incentives, because, you know, kids love incentives. So they saw those groups as well. So they're going to keep doing what they typically do. We're not going to just leave kids out high and dry. There are particular kids that we see through our school-wide positive behavior program, our check-in system through that program. We're going to continue to see those kids. If we also identify kids that need to be seen based on our contacts that we've made, we're going to pull those kids in as well, and our counselors are going to see those kids as well.
Okay.
So we're going to make sure we're meeting the needs of our kids based on need. And just like Dr. Williams mentioned, we're going to be doing our assessments at the beginning of the year. They have this process where they're going to make phone calls to call specific kids. There's a series of questions that they're going to ask. So parents who are on this call now, when our core team gives you a call, they're going to ask to speak to your kids. There's a series of questions. They're going to base their assessment on those questions, and those are the kids that they're going to decide to check in on as well. So there's a process that occurs at the beginning. They're going to do it, I believe it's either twice this year or 3 times, but there's baseline data that they're going to take at the beginning of the year.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so next up, we have Michelle Nardo.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
I have a few questions. I'll start with the easiest. Are there any updates needed for the Chromebooks from last year?
Leo?
Apologies, I was answering a text message.
Any updates needed for the Chromebooks from last year?
Oh, as long as you've powered them on, they will update in the background automatically. So you can always power it on and just let it sit for a little bit. It'll download anything it needs in the background. And a lot of times the Chromebook will notify you saying, hey, I have an update, just click to reboot or reset, and it will apply the update. They usually take like 2 minutes. Usually pretty quick once they got to do it.
Okay, thank you. Next, will the children be able to see and interact or talk to the other students in their class during the synchronous learning? Or is it only the teacher that they'll be able to see?
Would you like to unmute, Ms. Fernandez?
Yeah, the children are going to be able to see each other, and that's why the first week of the school is going to be a lot of building that community, as you know, Ms. Kersey, Mr. Smith say at the beginning. So it's really throughout the year, and during also those morning meetings, we really want to build the community. I know how hard it is, believe me. I miss the children here in the building. I mean, I was talking to a teacher today and I say, you know what I miss is to see the kids. I mean, they really make me to get up every morning. But they are gonna be able to see each other, interact with each other, you know, help each other with the work. So we are really trying to create an environment where they're gonna be able to, you know, almost like they are live in the classroom, but it's gonna be virtually.
Okay,
and
thank you.
And something that we did, the children are moving, the same class that they were the year before, they probably gonna see the same kids in, you know, if they were in first grade, we try to keep the classes together. That way the children already know each other.
Okay, that's good to know. What if you're, and I'm sure I'm probably not the only one that has this question. My child is 6, gonna be 7, so he's too old for daycare and cannot interact with other kids as he's an only child, and we have closest family is an hour and a half away. So we're trying to take him to different places like skate parks, pump tracks for bike riding, that type of stuff. But he still is a very active child. And my fear is that he's going to struggle adjusting to this type of learning, as he loves being around other kids. Even though he is very high risk himself due to medical conditions, we still allow it in a controlled environment that we're able to monitor. is there some type of accommodation that would be given to kids that are having such a hard time adjusting to this? Or is this something that we would need to discuss in IEP then?
If you're, I mean, just in general, children, and the teachers are very skilled with working with children. We know their age. We know it's going to be challenging for them to adjust. So they're definitely going to work with the parents, with the students to help them adjust to this new environment. If the child already has an IEP, the IEP teacher will work with the families regarding any updates or accommodations.
Okay. And can you guys put Paul Fly on the list for possible pods with other kids in the classes as well? It's something I'd be interested in trying to get him into.
Okay. So again, we'll explore that. And I do know that there are community organizations that are having kids come in person. We'll share that information as well. But everything we do will have to be virtual at this time. But we will explore how we can connect if we are able to do that, families together.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all for me.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Oops, sorry. Okay. The next one is Susan Carpenter.
Good evening.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Good to see faces. I really appreciate all the work that you've been doing behind the scene. Part of my question, my main part of my question, I think has already been answered. It was centered around homework. So I know for us, my elementary school child is the youngest of 4. Transition period was definitely the hardest going back into the spring. And I know that this fall is going to look completely different, but I'm thinking that that transition period of the first few weeks, as we all adjust and they adjust, is going to be the most difficult. So I really liked that, Mr. Smith, you spoke about stamina and that you are already proactively putting that effort into place. But with the homework, so that was my main question. And if I understood the response correctly, it was that there really won't be, I guess, a focus of homework, that a lot of the work or independent work that they would need to do would probably be assigned in that asynchronous learning period. So I just wanted to confirm if I understood that correctly. I just know that as parents, it's not just juggling the time that they're quote unquote at school, but it's managing that we're not teachers. And so it takes us twice as long to help support them at home with a lot of what they need to do as far as assignments. And then to back that up as well, I wanted to know about grading. I know you mentioned it was traditional grading. My question is, if we moved into more testing, so my youngest is a 4th grader, you know, there's a lot of meat in those tests. How are the testing this year going to look? How are teachers going to be able to give tests that really mimic tests that they would be taking independently at school?
Some of our testing, you know, as far as DIBELS, we are working on preparing the teachers for the online assessment piece. It will look a little differently, and that is something that we're in a process of building up, our online assessment component. And that is also in the training for the teachers as well. So we still need to collaborate on that. We do have the structures in place for it. We just want to make sure that the teachers are in a good place to share this information. And a lot of things will be online that the kids can actually do online and type right into the system. With our DIBELS, when Mrs. Kirksey was referring to that one-on-one testing, because we're going to have to do that as well for the kids to make sure that they're on level with reading and determine their needs for, you know, during our WIN period as well. So online assessments, we're building those. The focus right now, we still have informal assessments. So the teacher can gather data from other means other than just sitting down with a paper and pencil assessment. And I believe Mrs. Kirksey mentioned the homework component. So grading, they'll still have, you know, their classwork, they will have homework. To what extent, we will, you know, chat about that as well. quizzes, but it will just look differently. And kids can do project-based assignments as well, because you can assess children beyond just the paper and pencil. You can just assess them on how they actually apply learning in different ways. Would the principals, would you guys like to chime in?
Well, I was just going to say, first of all, hello, Mrs. Carpenter. It's good,
Hi.
To hear from you. I apologize to the other parents, other qualified parents that are jumped on, but it's good. Thank you for joining us tonight. So, I mean, essentially, it's all homework, right? Because they're all going to be home. So the reality is to not make it strenuous on the students. We know with the learning and the classroom assignments, the math workbooks, etc. You know, we are not looking to say, oh, let's tag this on at the end of the school day, give the students one more thing. It's going to be in conjunction with what's going on in the curriculum. It's going to mirror it, so it's not putting more work on the student, thus putting more work on the parent. And that's our ultimate goal. It's to really have the teachers there to provide the support and get as much information so we know academically where the child is, and so we can support them accordingly, whether that's in a small group or the one-on-one session. So we are not looking at, hey, let's tag on some more homework at the end of the school day, like a traditional classroom would be, or in school.
Great, thank you. That's what I was hoping to hear.
Okay, let's see. Next one, Norhan, you're allowed to speak.
Hi, good evening, everybody. So I have a question, please. I have two special needs kids, 3rd and 4th grade. I know I'm not going to talk about them right today. I know the other meeting on the 26th. I'm talking about my 3rd grade, which is he has more inclusion with the special, with the general ed classroom. So I have a concern. How can he manage both classrooms? Because still, you know, he has like a homeroom teacher, which is like with a special ed. For example, he has the math, reading, and the science, and the specials with the general ed, and the rest, you know, like the writing and, you know, the morning meeting with the special ed. So I just have a concern. How can he manage that? I don't know.
The IEP teacher will work on individualized schedules for IEP students as needed. So the IEP, the case manager, the special ed supervisors, they will chat about all of that on the 26th. I don't want to misspeak, but they do have alternative schedules for IEP students.
Yes. Even the most time he will be with the general ed.
Yeah. So it depends. I mean, if there's inclusion, and you know, he would be in the regular ed setting, and the special ed teacher will support.
Yeah.
But Mrs. Kirsty, do you want to explain
Hi,
about the
Nora.
co-teaching?
Yeah. Hi, Nora. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good. And it's going to be a little different than last year because with the guardian, he can start off with his homeroom teacher, and then his schedule, when I schedule him into the inclusion, it would allow the teacher to pick him up. So he won't have to use the codes. So that the teacher will be able to click on his name or his face and move him into the inclusive setting. So you won't have to worry about any codes or anything like that. He'll automatically be pulled over. And then his homeroom teacher can pull him back over into her classroom when it's time for him to go back to the self-contained special ed classroom.
Okay.
So there won't be any codes or anything like that. The teachers will manage to pull him back when the time is required.
Okay.
So that will make it a lot easier than last year.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're losing you. You're breaking up.
Yeah. I'm saying thank you so much. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that will make it a lot easier. And the workload, we can talk about the workload because, you know, he doesn't have to do everything. We can just focus on, you know, what he's capable of doing, what he likes to do, the subject that he likes to do, and then we can kind of titrate the work. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mrs.
That's
Curti.
easy.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's easy.
Yes, yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, moving on to next. We have Becky.
Hi.
Hello.
So, well, first of all, thank you so much for doing this. This is really taking a load off my mind, trying to figure this all out. But my question, this is surrounding sort of what Mr. Smith talked about, where teachers, I think if I understood this right, teachers will be monitoring, or at least like kind of looking in on kids during the synchronous class times. And, you know, inevitably, just like in-person schooling, there will probably be some behavioral issues. You know, maybe there's going to be some kids who have limited supervision for, you know, whatever reason. But I'm wondering, how will these be addressed? Like, will the teacher have to stop the instruction several times to address the concerns? Because I worry that my daughter, she'll like not be able to refocus after, if there are multiple interruptions because we're having to call out so-and-so for, you know, I don't know, bouncing around, not paying attention. So I'm just wondering if that, what kind of plan is in place for those types of behavioral issues.
Mr. Smith, are you comfortable with speaking about Go Guardian in the
Yeah,
filtering piece? Okay.
So, and then Leo can correct me if and jump in if with anything I'm missing. Well, first of all, we recognize, and one thing that we learned, and I will tell you one thing I learned from having Zoom lunch meetings with my students, is that there's a lot of fun and interesting things that you learn about your students in their household when there's limited control of the internet. So we learned lots of different things. One of the things that we are going to do as we start off the school year is we recognize that there's a need for educating our students in what is appropriate online behavior. That's the first and foremost thing, okay? So we don't make assumptions that students know the expectations to be online. You put a camera in front of any child or most children, they're gonna do some fun and crazy things, okay? They're gonna look at themselves, they're gonna get close to the camera, I mean, all types of things, and we saw that. So we recognize that. So we're gonna teach our students how to appropriately use the internet, how to appropriately get on the Chromebook, how to interact with your teacher, how to interact with your fellow classmates. So that's the first thing. And that's what's going to take place over the course of the first couple of weeks. So you'll see that, you'll hear that. The second thing in regards to control, even though we teach those expectations, there's still students that are going to struggle with follow-up. So what the opportunity for the teacher to do is to mute the student if they're talking too loud, to close the video, but the classmates cannot see the student, okay? So there's the control of muting the student and blocking them out from everyone else's viewpoint. And then what would happen is, you know, typically the teacher would then follow up with the child, the parent, and again, review the expectations of online learning. We were talking about to the child and with the help of the parent, let them know that this is what it should look like, and we're working with that. So that's going to be the focus. I mean, part of our school, I mean, as you know, from being at Paul Fly and for parents across the district, the School Positive program, we're still working on distance learning, school positive behavior support. It's going to look different, obviously, than it looks like in school, but we're gonna recognize students for following directions, just like we did with, you know, and some schools have the tickets, the golden tickets, the blue tickets, etc. We're still going to recognize students for following directions and doing a great job on the online platform. So I hope that answers your question. If I missed anything, you can correct me. But
yeah, no, that really helps. Thank you very much. I do have one other quick question. You know, my kids used Epic a lot in the spring, and that was great having that like free and accessible to them. Do you know if that will continue as Epic or any of the other platforms that maybe the kids were using as part of McGraw-Hill? That they'll be able to access that for free still in the fall?
So I will say that there will be programs that students will be using, programs, and district we're looking at another program that is going to be it's an awesome program. It's already being utilized in one of the schools that has piloted it. We're looking at it, but we will certainly provide additional resources. Students will have access to McGraw-Hill, but again, teachers have a slew of online resources. That was one of the things that we did to identify online resources to support the learning in the classroom. Because like anything, students can stagnate if they are exposed to a resource, they'll use it, and then what happens, they tire of it. So we have just a lot of different resources that we're going to pull from over the course of the next, at least until January 11th, that we're going to be using, and then obviously we'll use some of those in person when we do return.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, moving on to the next. Debbie? Debbie is unmuted, but I'm not seeing any audio activity. Okay, what we'll do is, oh, I think I heard.
You're welcome to email me if you hear this. Please shoot me any questions that you have. I'll be happy to follow.
So what we'll do is I'll move on to the next. Let's see, Kate Graff. You can unmute and speak.
Hello, guys. How are you?
Hello, how are you?
Good. Thank you for taking the time tonight. I'll try to make it quick. And I'm sorry if this is something you already touched on, the joy of 8-year-old twins screaming in your ear while you're doing this. So first things first is, are there going to be any kind of, I guess, I don't want to use the word repercussions, but how are you holding these kids accountable for being in, or not even just the kids, but the family in general? Because that was a big thing last year with my kids, where they're like, oh, well, so-and-so's not doing all the online work. Why do I have to do it? They're just getting at that age where the kids talk and they hear these things, about it. So I'm just curious how they're going to be held responsible.
So there's greater accountability this year. So grading is the same as it is during brick and mortar. So children are expected to complete their work, submit their work, participate in class, complete assessments. So they will be graded this year.
Okay. And then the second part kind of goes along with a lot of the parents asking questions about parents who are either working from home or who are a single parent. Are these live classes going to be recorded for those kids that, whether they're sick or whether their parent can't help them at 9 in the morning but can help them at 7 o'clock at night? Are these live classroom lessons going to be recorded so that they can access them at a later point and still get credit for attending their class?
We are still in the process of exploring that with our technology and just checking to see what we can and cannot do. So we will know about that soon. Also during the asynchronous time, teachers can work with students with makeup work as well. But we will have the recording information for parents soon.
Okay, fantastic. Okay. Thank you so much for everything you guys are working on.
You're welcome. Stay well.
Sorry. Okay, next up is Kimberly. You're muted still.
Can you hear me?
Now we got you.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you.
I cannot hear you.
We can hear you.
They unmuted me, but now I cannot hear you. Huh.
Leo, is there a way to communicate with her?
Currently the chat is not open.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I cannot hear anyone.
Does anyone recognize the parent?
I do. Kimberly, do you hear me? Kim?
I placed her on mute, and maybe she'll be able to hear you. No, you could always reach out.
Hello?
Kim, can you hear
Hello?
me? Kim? No. So she's a new parent. Just register. No, she's registering. I think she has an appointment on the 25th. She's new. I can email her. I'll email her and find out what her question is.
Okay. Next up, we have Olivia. Okay, Olivia's using an older version. Okay, she needs to be moved to a panelist, so she'll be here shortly. Oh, where'd she go? There's Olivia. Okay, auto talk. Okay. All right, Olivia, you can unmute and you can speak.
Okay, hi. Thank you. I just had a question about the special areas. So I know last year with special areas, there was assignments on like music, gym, and art. I know you guys said you guys are providing supplies for the main classes, but are you also supplying the supplies for the special areas like art? So a lot of the art projects, like, I mean, not saying that because my kid is a boy, he doesn't do art projects, but I don't leave, I don't have, paint on hand. So when an art project came up, I needed to go to the store and buy paint. So will stuff like that be provided too, or are parents expected to get those things or make sure they have them? Because it wasn't in the list as well that went out. So just wanted to know.
So the art teachers have worked on their curriculum, looking at which resources are needed. So some supplies should be on the supply list because they're really just looking at general supplies. If a family is in need, they should reach out to the guidance counselor, and then the art teacher will make sure that those supplies are shared. But there are a lot of just the basic ones like colored pencils, and things like that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, like the last time it wasn't basic and I had to go to the store and grab stuff. So, and I mean, I don't have a problem with doing it, but I know there are parents in the area that can't afford to just run out and go grab.
Yes, we have, we did plan for that as well for our parents in need.
Okay, so let's see, Olivia, move to attendee. Back to the attendee list. Nicholas Graff, you're allowed to speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. So I know this is a silly question, but there's no form of dress code, right? So if my daughter wants to wear pajamas the whole time she's on the online session, she's free to do that as long as she's participating during this online schooling. And I've read some silly stories about there's a dress code while attending a virtual learning. And also, Doctor, can you provide a like your impressions on the new principal of Hancock, Principal Vaught, I believe her name is?
Would you like to know about Principal Vaught?
Yeah, just basic background and your impressions, and just to know.
I know she has not she's having a parent meeting coming up, but she was definitely handpicked by the committee. She's coming to us from Philadelphia. You're going to absolutely adore her. She has really hit the ground running. She hasn't been here that long, but she has been, working, getting things, becoming acclimated to the system. Her mentor is actually here on the call. So we've paired her with Mr. Smith to help her as well. So she's been involved even before she started. She does have a parent meeting coming up. I don't have it in front of me, but it's very
I believe it is on
soon.
Thursday. Sorry,
Thank you. Okay.
Yep.
So she does have the link for that, and she's going to definitely share that with families, but you're going to adore Mrs. Vaught. I wouldn't mind if my child had Mrs. Vaught, or any of our other principals either, but you're going to adore her. I forgot your other question though.
The other question was in regards to address.
Oh, jammies. Okay. We are not really interested in causing more problems for parents. Children just need to be fully dressed. We do ask that the kids are fully dressed, for their lesson. And if we can get them into a routine to get up, brush their teeth, eat their breakfast, and, get dressed and excited for school, we would love that. But we know parents have a lot to juggle. We just need to make sure that they are appropriately covered for the lessons.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. Next one up, Rochelle. We move to a panelist, and you can unmute.
Hello, thank you guys for everything. I'm more or less calling as a child care provider. We have several students that will be attending our center, and I was just wondering the likelihood of those students who are going to kindergarten being in the same classroom, possibly just based off of other questions that I heard since I've been on here. I know that's probably a juggle, but it probably will be beneficial, I guess, to those kids being in the same room. But I don't know if, if there's a contact person that we should reach out to, or if someone wanted to reach out to me, I can leave my email or, again, call or email someone.
In order to discuss students' rosters, that actually has to come from the parents. So if you want the parents to reach out to the principals, that would be helpful.
Okay. That, obviously, if they're at the same school, but we can do that. We're actually going to be meeting with the few families that we do have this week, and I'll ask them to do that.
And if they're able to, but
yes.
The subject area, the curriculum will be the same regardless of which school they're in.
Right. Okay. I was just thinking like all the Chromebooks open at the same time in the same classroom and all the noise, and trying to, doing our best to also support some of the families the best we can as well.
Yes. And thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay. And we have one more hand raised, Janelle.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to echo some of the sentiments that have already been stated, and thank you guys for your diligent commitment and dedication to the safety of our kids and community. And really, my first question is more so for the IT department, and I'd be more than happy to give a call either tomorrow or later on this week to discuss. But we kept our elementary school students' Chromebook over the summer, and about 3 weeks or so ago, we're unable to log her in, stating that the access token could not be retrieved, and we need to check our network connection, but we are connected to the network.
Leo?
I can speak to that for you. Yep.
Thank you.
So I had one other parent with this error. Now, a bunch of our Chromebooks are set up for the quick card access, where it'll scan the QR codes to log the students in.
Okay.
Your Chromebook is ahead of the curve and already prepped and ready for that.
Ah.
So the cards are coming in the mail. We'll be mailing them out to all elementary school students this week. And when you click next to log in, the camera should turn on and you can wave the card and it will log the kid in automatically.
Oh, okay, perfect.
So that's on the way.
Okay.
So in the meantime, you can log in, but on the first screen when it boots up, there's sign in with another user account. I believe it's written in blue text.
Yes.
That'll go backwards, and then you can log in.
Okay.
The token error is if you go ahead past the camera and then go back, it gets all confused, and then you'll see that token error.
Okay, very good.
So,
Thank you so much for that. And then my
Sure.
next question is, I know we've been seeing a lot of, I guess, commercials, if you will, or advertisements for like back to school uniforms and things like that. And I'm probably skipping way far ahead, but in the event that we do end up coming back to school for in-person instruction, do you think uniforms would be required at that point, or would it just be foregone for the rest of the school year?
We spoke about flexibility with uniforms and we were planning for the hybrid and the return. So that is something that we are open to discuss with families. We know that this may be a challenging time for some families. So we will work with families if we return.
Okay.
And,
All right.
and hopefully we will be able to come back together soon.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Okay, we have one additional hand raised here.
And then Leo, I did hear from Kimberly O'Hara. She emailed me a couple questions that she has after this last speaker.
All right, so Michelle, I'm allowing you to speak. You can unmute.
Yes, I forgot earlier when I was asking, did somebody say something about lunches? Were they stopping, or what was going on?
We will continue to provide food for children. Just working out the details right now of what it would look like and waiting for guidance from this state and federal government. But we will continue to provide food.
Okay, and last question, is there any chance that maybe they might be going back to schools? Any talk of going back prior to January? Or is January just the set date that's not going to change ever?
January is our set date.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And we have another one, Nicole. You can unmute.
Hi, it's actually, hi, Mr. Smith, it's Ronette Jones.
Hey, hi, Mrs. Jones.
Hi, I had to share Nicole's link. We're at an event together.
All right.
This is really quick. First of all, you guys have done an incredible job. It's a lot to unpack. But one, I just had a question about, is there any talk of students doing anything with instruments this year? My child had played an instrument last year, and that was a little comfort level for him in terms of, like parents were saying, children need other things since, a lot of us don't have, we can't really have them out to socialize, depending on their situation. And the second part was I just had a quick idea, since we have this group here on the phone, even though it's parents from different schools, it's maybe possible, again, since, the schools, everything's virtual, that maybe a group could come together maybe on a monthly or 2-week basis with just parents who were like parents. I was on the PSC, by the way, full disclosure, but just parents, even if you're from other schools, can get together and socialize with your children and with other kids to have some type of, community together. I don't think it should just be about, Paul Fly or Muscleman or Cold Matter, etc. Maybe, you could just have something organized through the district on Zoom, for parents, just to, have some type of, school involvement. Just an idea I wanted to throw out. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, can you have that parent's name and we can just contact the music department? I don't remember the details, so I don't want to give out any wrong information about instruments.
Sure. Yeah, I will share that out with all of our families, to get all the specifics about what that's like.
Thank you, because I don't remember. Leo, was that our last call?
That was the last question. So I guess if Rachel wants to read off the questions that were submitted to her email.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the first one is, it says, this sounds like a solid strategy, but if it doesn't work, is there a plan B? If 50% or more of the students of the younger grades are not progressing as planned, will there be a change in strategy?
With everything, we'll definitely look at the data and continue our conversation. If we need to make adjustments, we will. But we definitely want to give kids time to become acclimated to the new program.
And then how do you plan to test kindergartners? I think
We're working on it.
Yes.
We're working on it.
Yeah. And then during the morning meeting, could you give an example of what an interactive teamwork activity would look like for a kindergartner?
Would anyone like to share?
I don't know, Mr. Smith, I'm thinking of a morning meeting. That's usually your forte.
Sorry.
It is, yeah, because of restorative practices, morning meeting.
No,
I was thinking of that.
I had a hard time, my internet went out, like, so I didn't catch what you asked.
During the morning meeting, could we give an example of what an interactive teamwork activity would look like for a kindergartner? So I was reverting to you because of restorative practices as far as the morning meeting. What an interactive morning meeting would look like?
Interactive meeting?
For morning meetings, yeah.
Yeah, we're looking, I mean, it's obviously going to be different in person, so what we do in person is going to be quite different. So I would, along the lines, we've had this discussion with the kindergarten teachers, my second grade teachers, and my third grade, and I haven't had this conversation with my third grade teachers yet, but we talked about, you know, really, it could be more of like a show and tell kind of interaction where they're showing and having the discussion about what's something that's important to you and why. And, you know, with the opportunity of students being at home, they have access to the things that are at home that are important to them that they wouldn't feel comfortable bringing into school. So a morning meeting then is you're asking, you know, like a more of a show and tell, share something about your life that's important to you and why. You know, one of the things that we did in the spring during my Zoom meetings, we had the same question. And students shared pets with them, and they talked about that, why it's important to them. And so really it makes connections with other students and that have pets. I know it sounds simplistic, but that's really what we're developing, is that foundational level connections with each other, so we have things in common. And that's really, when we have things in common with each other, that's really where a relationship starts, right? And so that's what we're trying to create and establish with students. So it's not going to be something complex at first. It can be something simple as, we're going to do a show and tell something that's important to you and why. And students are in that perfect environment for them to bring something in to make that connection. I hope that makes sense in that
it does.
You understand this.
Absolutely. And I was just thinking it could even be if you have two siblings in your family, or if you have, you know, stand up. You know, if you have, two brothers in your family, stand up. If you are in a household where, like you said, you have a pet, if you have a cat in your family, stand up. So there are just multiple ways that could happen. But no, thank you, Mr. Smith, because I know that was on the spot, but I know you do a lot of work with restorative practices involving circle time and morning meetings. When do you emphasize reading during the day for grades K and 1? When do you emphasize reading? Okay, so when does reading start for grades K and 1?
So you had that within your samples schedule, the foundations time? Well, teaching reading, as far as independent reading, that could take place during asynchronous time as well, and they would be reading throughout. Is it about teaching reading or independent reading.
I'm not sure. It just says, when do you emphasize reading during the day? During the day for grades K and 1. When do you?
And I think for our newer parents, just really, when the information goes out to them, just explaining to them what is foundation. So I know it was in the PowerPoint, but just reiterating what is foundations, and explaining that that is the reading program.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because we did use ELA rather than reading. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so it's
language arts.
English language art, yeah.
Yeah, English language arts.
Yeah.
That's our reading program.
So Leo, was that our last question?
There's one final hand raised if you want.
That was it? Or we have
There's one final one there if you want.
Okay.
Janelle?
I'm sorry, I have one last question. Just in looking at the calendar, I know there are already set days for the students to be out of school, and we have certain early dismissal days. Will those fall in line with the way that our virtual learning is going to be in place? Will they still have, like, I think Yom Kippur is first, will they still have off that day?
Yes, they will still have all of their holidays and early dismissal days.
Okay, that was it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Williams, I
Yes.
received an email from a parent that was trying to get on earlier but was having issues with the connection. So I just want to go through those questions real quick.
You're breaking up, but can you guys hear Mr. Smith?
You're breaking up quite a bit.
Go ahead, Jason. What are the questions?
Again.
Right. So it was regards to the materials pickup. The material pickup, we're planning on material pickups being after school starts, so during the day and evening session for parents to get materials from school. The Chromebook screen is too small. The font is too small. Is there a way to enlarge it? Leo, that would be for you. Or can I get a separate screen? Is it okay to connect with the ease of viewing the materials? So for students that the Chromebook's too small, Leo, the question is there a way to enlarge it or get another screen?
Yes to both.
Okay.
The Chromebooks, there is accessibility features where you can adjust the overall font size, like the visual changes if you need to make things bigger. Each website, it also remembers the zoom level you set it at, so you can zoom in and out of different websites, and Google will remember that site you like to have bigger, this one you don't. You also have the option of connecting any external display that you like. The student devices, let's see. I know that the 3100 devices have USB-C connections, so you can use a USB-C to display port or to HDMI or VGA adapter and go right into an external monitor.
That was Greek.
Hopefully for the parent that would like, right? So for anyone that cares to know.
Just a couple others. Will the individual teacher be sending a supply list of items, maybe in addition to the standard? We're going to follow the standard supply list and send building. Breakfast lunches, follow up with our food services. Regarding PFCs this year, I mean, those are some things that we're working on with the PFC. Wednesday, about Wednesday folders. So important information from the district, from our schools, we'll share it on Wednesdays. So that's a great question to follow up with. And the others are paying, I'll follow up with it directly.
Okay, sounds good. Were you kind of asking the question and answering the question? I want to make sure. I think that's what you
I
were
was
doing.
asking
Okay.
and answering.
Perfect. Okay. Leo, was that our last question?
2 more hands have appeared. Kate, you're first.
Sorry to pop back on, and you guys, I just wanted to touch base real quick. You had a parent asking about support. I'm not speaking necessarily for any of the other elementary schools, but I'm on the PFC board for Hancock, and I know our intentions, sorry, I have the hiccup. Our intentions are to try to be as much of a support system for all the parents, whether we're going to be sharing out all of the information that you guys are distributing to us, also in conjunction with your new principal who we spoke with, who is fantastic. I'm in love with her already.
Awesome.
But she's going to be feeding information to us so we can put it out to parents, because we get parents who reach out to us a lot too. So we're just going to try to make other resources, whether it's groups or whatever. We haven't batted the idea around yet, but I just want to make sure everybody knows that we're going to try our best to help connect all the parents too.
Thank you.
Okay, we have one last. Oh, it's Kina. You've been unmuted, or you're allowed to unmute.
That's an error. I don't have a question. I'm sorry.
Oh, so you don't have a question? Okay.
I do not.
Okay, then that's the last one.
Okay. All right. Well, that concludes our session. Thank you. Great questions. We are definitely looking forward to a productive year, getting to see our students virtually. I know the principals are excited, the teachers are excited. We will continue to be in contact with our families. And if you have any out to your buildings, and let us know. Principals, any last words?
Thank you to everyone participating in tonight's meeting. Please reach out to the schools. We're here for you. So any way possible, through phones, through email. But as we say earlier, it's really important to have your outdated information in our site. So if you change your phone number or your email address, please let us know. Thank you.
And I would just say the same thing, but I would add, if you have any suggestions, recommendations, this is all new to us. We want to do the best we can to support our families, our students, and our parents, because you are our most valuable resource. We love you, and we do not like that we're virtual, but we are looking forward to today where we can return and connecting with you as best as possible through this platform.
Yes. And just as a reminder, our materials distribution will be on the 2nd and 3rd of September. And for our kindergarten families, we have our orientation on the 26th. And then don't forget to save the date on the 9th for our open house. So again, just like Mr. Smith said, we love you. We can't wait to see the students again. And we're looking forward to our virtual learning. Even though we want to be in brick and mortar, we're looking forward to virtual learning so we can kind of get back to some normalcy. So have a great evening, and we look forward to our partnership. We're looking forward to it.
Yes. Everyone stay well. Have a good evening.